and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 60 of A Wild Podcast has appeared, the official Pokemon podcast of Comicbook.com. It's the one where we finally talk about Isle of Armor. Because it's been out long enough.
Only took us 3 weeks.
Only took us 3 weeks. There were big things that we needed to talk about over the last 3 weeks. And sure enough, this week, well, it's going to be a light week. So if you're new to the show, let me quickly get you a little bit of a recap of what you're in for. The first part of our show, we do a news digest, basically, where it's a little bit of the news of the week that we cover. And it's not as long as the deep dive, which is the second part of our show, where obviously that is where most of the Isle of Armor stuff is going to happen. And then at the very, very end, the Pokemon Fact of the Week, which is everyone's favorite segment.
Mm-hmm. It is so popular that Jim tried to skip over it last week because he was jealous of its success.
Yeah, we got so many complaints.
That's it.
We will never make that mistake again.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it because the news section is probably going to be pretty small as far as discussion goes. There's really not much to talk about with the exception of one big thing that Megan is completely outraged about. So Pokemon Go, some Pokemon Go news is up first, and we're getting another Team Rocket event, it looks like. And
yes. This time involving balloons.
Balloons?
Just last night, they released the Pokemon Go released a in-world blog post written from the perspective of Professor Willow, talking about strange scraps of paper that Blanche found during their recent travels. So the scraps of paper appear to be either an instruction manual or maybe some sort of comic. First of which depicts a Team Rocket grunt building a balloon. The second of which shows the Team Rocket grunt throwing a net at a Pikachu. And so there is likely more to come. This is probably kind of like the last Team Rocket event where the different team leaders, encounter different aspects of Team Rocket and things happen. But this one will somehow involve their balloons. We don't know much besides that.
Interesting.
Because I have only just recently picked back up on my Pokemon Go playing, I still have a bunch of the old Rocket challenges that I need to get through. Mm-hmm. And it's really annoying that it kind of pops up at random and I can't just go to a place and figure out how to defeat.
That's why I kind of stopped doing the Team Rocket stuff, to be honest. It was cool at first, but, when they introduced the admins and Giovanni, it was, I'll be honest, it was a bit of a pain in the butt to complete. And so I just kind of stopped doing it.
It's pretty tedious.
I'll battle, the Team Rocket grunts when they, pop up, nearby.
Yeah.
But, my big issue with it is they're all tied to random Pokestops.
Mm.
It's not even, one of those things where I can go and, lay down some Team Rocket incense and they show up. So maybe these balloons will just cause Team Rocket to randomly spawn so that you can battle them and they're not tethered to Pokestops. That's my personal hope. I have no idea.
That'd be nice.
I have no idea what this is going to be. So we can hope that that's the case, but who knows?
I mean, that would also be low-key terrifying where it's just a Team Rocket invasion. You just open your game. It's just hot air balloons of dozens of Team Rocket teams coming down. That would.
Tell you what, though, I caught so many Scyther yesterday. It was not even funny.
Oh, because the bug out event.
Yep.
I totally forgot about that.
Yep. The Scyther was the only cool one that they've done on the incense front so far. So.
Yeah. No, I love
Scyther.
Scyther is definitely a Pokemon that exists. It is a very cool looking Pokemon.
Yes.
It has one of the
it is not
Pokemon.
It is not a good Pokemon by any stretch, but it has a cool voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way it says
the
its
best
name.
Pokemon cry.
Yeah.
That was the cry me and my friends would always imitate when we were kids.
It's got such a great design. But that's really it.
I wish that they I really wish, one of the cool things that I've always liked about Scyther is in the anime they have like Scyther, like as kind of like a, like the different, like as Scyther grows older, like, they don't actually like, it doesn't actually like grow like mutton chops, but he does. Like, you ever see like an old Scyther and it's like deliberately meant to look, like invoke like, this is a, wizened, like master of the blade. Only it's Scyther, but I would love to see like a variant version of Scyther where it's like old man Scyther.
Scyther is also one of the Pokemon that got a unnecessary and pretty ugly evolution. I don't like Scizor.
My big issue, like my biggest issue with Scizor is, one, I never had a real Scizor that wasn't in Pokemon Go up until the Isle of Armor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's one of those, you have to trade for it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. Like, it's one thing, like if it's like Machamp, where it's just like, okay, I get a Machoke, I trade it to somebody, and it, they get a Machamp. That's fine. Yeah. But here, it's like you get one metal coat.
Mm-hmm.
You attach it to a Scyther, and then you have to hope that whoever you're trading with doesn't, like, pull out the cord and, like, run for the freaking hills. I'm not going to say that's happened to me, but I will say when I spear tackle somebody,
this sounds more like something.
Gentle.
This sounds more like something you have done and less has happened to you.
Okay, Jim, over the course of 60 episodes, I'm pretty sure that we have established that I am the moral. I fall under like the good alignment. Well, you're freaking chaotic evil.
And we had just learned that there is a dark side to Christian.
No, I'm saying
Discord.
No, I'm not the one who had the, I'm not the one who unplugged the cord and run. I had it done to me. It was probably.
I think we're really avoid the fact that Jim is the one who pulled the cord.
Yeah, I was about to say we have just weeks of podcast evidence. Jim, not only would you have pulled the cord had you thought about it, you would have then tried to turn around and sell it back to somebody for like $6.
Wow.
Like, suddenly you would be like, oh, well, and like the kid would just be waiting there for their Scizor back, and then you'd be like, oh, and you pull out your little like credit card swiper, and then it's like, that'll be $6. And the kid would be like, I'm 10 years old, I don't have a credit card. And you'd be like, better steal it from your mom.
Oh, wow.
Well, there we go. I think we got to the bottom of why Hopper only just got a Scizor.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. That's one of my pros. I mean,
to be fair though, like, if it's happened to Christian repeatedly, that is the makings of a villain, right? It has happened over and over and over again, and finally Christian has had enough, and no one is going to steal Pokemon from him anymore.
I will say this: I did not trust trading in Pokemon up until this generation. Like, I was, people would be like, oh yeah, let's do like a trade back so that we could like exchange legendaries to add them to our Pokedex. I'd be like, no. But with the current Pokemon community, there are enough generous people out there who I can trust, like, okay, let's do a Zacian for Zamazenta trade. And, we did the trade and then immediately traded back. And like, that kind of restored my faith in humanity after being let down more than once when it comes to Pokemon trading.
Oh, Hopper.
Yeah, I just don't like item evolution trades. Like, that is just too much. Too much.
All right. There's also a timed challenge for Pokemon Go Fest starting this week. So if that is your thing, go check it out.
And the anniversary event, I believe, also starts. I forget exactly when the start date is. I don't know if it's July 3rd, like the other, like the time challenge. So each of these are like the challenges that last only a week, so you have to complete the tasks. They're also doing an anniversary event, which will add Ducklet and Flying Pikachu to the game.
Oh, another Pikachu for me to get.
Yep.
I love
Well,
it.
this one's like, flying Pikachu, so it's a Pikachu that knows fly. Assumably, it will have balloons strapped to its back. 'Cause
Yeah, it better be like the best Pokemon card out there.
Yeah.
Floating Pikachu.
There will be, it looks like a chance to get Ho-Oh
Yes.
too in raids.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking it up, which is good.
Yeah, Ho-Oh is not super meta relevant nowadays, but still a
No.
solid Pokemon to have.
Yep.
I think that's like one of my highest CP ones. Like its moveset makes me sad. Like it has like terrible moves. Like
and then Alolan Raichu is already in the game, right?
yeah, it's a raid boss.
Yep, that's what I thought. So cool. Yeah. So if that's your thing, get in on that. Otherwise, let's move on to Pokemon Home crashed this week because everyone wanted their shiny Zeraora.
There are so many freaking messes involved with like the rollout of Shiny Zeraora. I was like genuinely shocked. So Pokemon Home crashed. So you can it's been resolved since then. So you can get your Shiny Zeraora. All you need to do is you need to have Pokemon Home. You need to transfer a Pokemon either from Pokemon Sword and Shield to Pokemon Home, or transfer a Pokemon, or I've at least read this. I haven't tried, I don't know if it's actually accurate or not. Transfer a Pokemon from Pokemon Home to Sword and Shield. That will trigger getting this mystery gift of a shiny Zeraora, which is nice.
So so for folks who may not know, like the process for Pokemon Home and all that, because there is still time to get Zeraora.
Yeah, it runs through July 6th.
So can you explain how if someone on their Switch can get Zeraora using Pokemon Home? Because I had to look it up because I hadn't used Pokemon Home in a while and I totally forgot. So I imagine I'm not the only one.
I did it through the mobile app, but
can you do it through the mobile app? I guess. I thought you had to move someone from.
Yes. So the step one is you need to transfer a Pokemon, which you can only do through the Pokemon Switch. You have to open up. You have to have Pokemon Sword loaded. Not loaded, but you need to have like a Pokemon Sword save file on your Switch.
Yep.
Go and have Pokemon Home. Transfer a Pokemon. So it's pretty easy process. There's like a button to do it, and you select Pokemon Sword. That's step one. Step two, once that is complete, there is a mystery gift option on both the mobile device and the Nintendo Switch. So you can go and click on that. A little exclamation point will appear on the parent menu. So I believe you go to menu, then mystery gift, and then you check. You don't really have to do anything else from there. There'll be a list of all of the available mystery gifts that you either have received or can receive, and then you just click or tap the one for Zeraora, and then it'll immediately be transferred into your Pokemon Home collection.
There it is. That's all you have to do.
Boom.
Pretty easy.
Simple as that.
And now we will talk about Pokemon Journeys.
Yes, the important part of this news briefing, because
well, first we should talk about what happened to Ash, because
I mean both are equally amazing.
It was very funny. So I had not seen the episode, but I think I mentioned this last week, but the Twitter account I follow, Out of Context Pokemon, had some screenshots of this, and I was like, where the hell is this from? And then I realized it was from Journeys, and I was like, okay, now I need to go catch up. And so who wants to take it?
Megan?
All right. Well, basically, this week had the weirdest episode of Pokemon Journeys, but I mean, period. Definitely one of the weirdest episodes of the franchise yet. So it's a two-parter. In one part, Ash and Go are on their journey still, bebopping around, and they find like a horde of like Slowpoke and Slowbro and Slowking, and like all of them are like really interested in what's happening, until unfortunately one of the shells from Slowking like pops off and starts jumping to the characters, and they're trying to avoid it. So like at one point it sits on Pikachu, and it looks like Pikachu gets like like possessed basically. It happens to everyone until it gets to Ash, and Ash has like the worst possession since like The Exorcist. It's so bad. He like starts speaking like nonsensical English, and he has this like really JoJo Bizarre Adventure-esque like facial expression that's like super dramatic, and he becomes very, very strange. I mean, like I don't even know how to like properly describe how strange he is when he gets possessed. But basically, like Pikachu tries to electrify the shell off of him, and it doesn't work. And like everyone for a second is like, "Do we have to kill Ash?" Like this might be the end of him. But eventually, the shell does come off of his head. But yeah, Ash straight up got possessed. And now I have a lot of questions about Slowking and Slowbro. Like, what is going on with that shell? I am very confused. Anyone has comments?
I just wish like a Cloister would be that powerful in real life for Sheldon.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more about the giant letdown that Shelter and Cloister are within the Pokemon game compared to how interesting their Pokedex is later in the session. My big thing. So here's my question about this. So when Shelter latches on to a Slowbro or a Slowpoke, it becomes a totally new Pokemon. When that Shelter latched onto Ash, did Ash become a Pokemon?
Oh my god! I feel like he became a hybrid.
We have basically already established that Ash is probably a Pokemon.
I mean, he's not, but okay.
Sure, but
I feel like honestly, he might become like the world's first like Pokemon trainer hybrid. Like, forget Z crystals or anything like that. Like this was legitimately the moment when Ash was like, I am a Pokemon. And maybe that's why he just wasn't computing everything correctly, because his human brain was like, I can't do this. We're not a Pokemon. But he was like determined, and so he just started speaking English. So it was a very strange episode. I'm very excited to see how the English dub on Netflix handles this one, because he speaks English in this episode to like show how weird he's being. So are they going to have like are they going to have the English actor like speaking Japanese, or like what's going to happen? I'm curious to see. But yeah, that's not the best thing that happened in this episode.
Oh, so now you're calling it the best thing?
No, second best thing. It's not the best thing that happened in this episode. The best thing is that Magikarp dies.
So, okay, that's what I was saying. So you're saying now the Magikarp dying is the best thing?
I mean, objectively, it's
when
upsetting.
10 minutes ago, Christian backed me up here, Megan was infuriated.
Yeah, I mean, go on.
I mean,
please,
I'm not saying.
Megan, please tell us how a Pokemon dying is the best thing.
Well, it's mainly the matter in which he died, or she, or it, if it's gender neutral. Basically, after this possession happens, Ash and Go run into a Magikarp like jumping competition, kind of like in the mini games for like Pokemon Coliseum and stuff.
Or the mobile game, Pokemon Magikarp Jump.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite mobile games.
You would love that.
Jim and your mobile games. But basically, Go has a Magikarp. He enters it. His Magikarp is pathetic and weak because Go's a terrible trainer and doesn't train them at all. So he buys a bunch of like bodybuilding videotapes and trains his Magikarp to become a bodybuilder. But like he goes too far with it. So when it comes to like the final showdown, the reigning champion jumps and he comes back down to earth, and he jumped pretty far, but goes full Super Saiyan. He jumps from the earth so hard that he shoots himself into space, like through the atmosphere, out the clouds, into the stars. And there's like a super dramatic scene of like Magikarp flying past the sun, just floating in earth, like floating in the space untethered, and like it's super like swelling music, and then his eyes like shut and like it goes back to earth, and they're like, he's not coming back. Why isn't he coming back down? And they're like, oh no, he went too far, we can't get him down. And unless this Magikarp has like a Rayquaza in its ancestry,
that's it.
This Magikarp is dead.
So does the Magikarp never come back?
No. The episode basically ends with Ash giving a eulogy. He was like, his time was gone too short. He now lives amongst the stars.
Wait.
The look on Christian's face is priceless.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed when you had like said like Magikarp dies, I thought this was like a Meowth scenario
no.
where it's like Mimikyu like briefly
No.
murders Meowth, and then Meowth like sees the bright light and chooses not to go into it.
No, he
So-
dies.
No, he
He's
just got
in
he just got
space.
yeeted into space.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
so he is like floating in space as a star now. And like at the end of the episode, Ash opens up a book and starts crying, and he's like giving a eulogy to this Magikarp.
So Go kills
Magikarp.
a Magikarp. So
I mean, I would
let's-
say he definitely gave the means of, he basically gave Magikarp the tool to kill itself.
I mean, so Magikarp committed suicide by yeeting, is what I'm
Yes,
understanding.
after
here.
he was put through horrific training.
He chose
Like
to
they compare Go's Magikarp size to another Magikarp, and it's like 3 times bigger. So like I don't know if he injected him with like some like artificial enhancements or steroids
I mean,
or something.
clearly, the one
That's-
put
This
past Go.
Magikarp
Small.
was literally so powerful. It jumped from Earth into outer space, did not have the means to come back to Earth.
I
and
have
died.
a feeling this Magikarp is going to come back, and it is
I'm-
going to be and it's going to be a Gyarados, and it's going to be the best thing ever.
I'm gonna laugh.
Or like a Rayquaza Magikarp. I don't even know. A Rayquaza carp. Like something crazy like that.
I'm gonna laugh when like in the final showdown between Ash and Go,
Mhm.
like Go has like the advantage. Like Ash is down to like Pikachu. Pikachu's all bruised, and like Go is like, I have captured every freaking Pokemon in existence. I am just overwhelming you with sheer numbers. And then Go's like, nothing can stop me. And suddenly this Magikarp just
Yeah.
meteors down to Earth, blows up Go, and then Ash is like just stunned, and that's how the episode ends with Go being evaporated, like on contact, just vaporized by a Magikarp meteorite.
Yeah. Like over
This
the
is the
weekend
only
I saw,
ending I will accept.
yeah,
Make it
like I
happen.
saw so many people talking about this poor Magikarp, and I only knew it went into space, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I watched the full thing, and I was like, oh my god, it dies. Like, I'm sorry, it's just
This is Chekhov's Magikarp.
basically it's like the poor dog that they sent into space, but now it's a Magikarp. Like, it's
Well, they
awful.
saw. I mean, the Pokemon Company. I will say this, with how they have done Pokemon Journeys and also Pokemon Sun and Moon before it, they do not shoot off a Magikarp into space unless they plan on bringing it back one day.
That's true.
Oh, I know, but like, is it coming back alive or mutated?
It
Is
doesn't
its
matter.
corpse coming back?
Maybe
Is
it's
it
going to come
become a
back as
comet?
Space Magikarp, and that's how they're going to introduce Space Magikarp to the series.
I
Is
can't.
this how they're going to introduce the first region in space?
Like Cosmic Evolution is what it's going to be.
Oh, no!
no.
Stop it! This is not Fantastic Four.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. All right. So that's it on our news break front. And when we get back, we're going to talk all about Isle of Armor. All right. So how far is everyone? Pretty far? All done, basically?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm collecting like the last handful of Pokemon that I still need from it.
I've almost finished the story. Just messing with that. I haven't collected nearly all the Pokemon. I just was bebopping through the story. So, me and good Cupfoo are best friends.
I actually ended up enjoying Cupfoo a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah?
He's such like a pure cinnamon bun. Like
I
he
mean-
just wants to see the island. Like it's so cute, but then it makes me so upset because I'm like, where have they been keeping you? That you haven't seen this island? Did they have you like locked in a basement? Like, what the heck?
So he's the only thing that annoys me is that he is classified as a legendary Pokemon. Like I get that he's got like cool stats, cool evolution, all that stuff. He just doesn't really feel like a legendary Pokemon to me.
No, it
No,
feels
no,
like something you would
absolutely
just
not.
pick up, you would just find in the
He's
wild.
like a starter Pokemon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or they, because technically Cupfoo is genderless.
Yeah. I feel
Uh,
like they might have made Cupfoo to be a starter at one point, and they're like, we can't go against what we usually do with our traditional 3. But we can do this.
This is the starter Pokemon for the Isle of Armor that you only get after just beating the Tar. So you guys both have Shield.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have a question for you. With your new rival character, is Top Hat Psychic Guy trying to sabotage you constantly throughout this entire thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know.
Terribly so, but yes.
I was about to say, because, I had the like K-pop Poison Star, who she's like, sabotaging you. And I'm like, okay, she's kind of got this like mean girl vibe to it. And I was like, I wonder if, the freaking psychic stoner, who definitely looks like probably an incel, is also like trying to pull this stunt, trying to pull this off too. Yeah. I was like definitely curious if it was like the same like general thing, or if he was just like too busy like, smoking pokey weed to really do anything at all.
No, it's just as annoying.
He speaks in a bunch of third person.
It's the worst.
He's just like the most overly dramatic. Like he always speaks theatrically and about himself.
I would like the record to state that, when we first talked about this, about Isle of Armor months ago, you guys were both like, no, I like the long-haired dude with the top hat. I was like,
this guy, him,
this guy.
Well, because initially it looked like a cool like pokey Miss Frizzle, but
at no point in time, like I immediately goes like, this dude definitely tips his cap and says "Milady."
Well, yes, that is actually very accurate.
Thank you. I'm glad to know that I was spot on in my instant judgment of the person from the inferior Pokemon game.
My favorite thing was, obviously, if you played the game, for those listening, is like when you get to like picking the mushrooms for the Gigantamax soup, and like our rival came up and was like, I found him first, and you have the option to give it to him or not give it to him. I like kind of wish I gave it to him, but I was so like affronted at the fact that he confronted me in the caves that I was like, no. Such a jerk. I took pride every time I just one-hit wondered him out of the matches.
Yeah, I actually tried to give it to them just to see what would happen. And they're like, no, this must be a trick. It's like, okay, I'm going to beat you up now.
Yeah, good. Sounds great. Cool.
It's like,
I said no from the start. And he was like, oh, you have such a lack of honor. And I was like, you are straight up trying to steal my mushrooms. I got like unreasonably territorial over these.
I'm calling it
mushrooms.
After that third match with him, he definitely went to his message boards to complain.
Oh. Wow.
So
yes.
Let's talk about some of the Pokemon in it. Who do you love? Who are you glad to have seen?
I'm glad to have seen my 400-foot long Wailord.
Wailord.
Yeah, that was the first Pokemon I went to.
So
and
did
it was
I.
level 80. And I was like, oh, hi. I don't have the right Pokemon to beat you, but I got him.
I liked the fact, I like the fact that they continue with this trend of having Pokemon that were once only available through trade, now available in the wild. So you can get Pokemon like Kingdra. You can get Pokemon like Scyther. I think there's 4 or 5 Pokemon species that are now available to add, that are appear in the wild for the first time. I didn't like that you can't get Porygon 2 and Porygon Z. You still have to trade for those suckers.
Of the Pokemon to include, of all the possible Pokemon to include, did we really need Porygon?
Yes. How dare you?
No.
Porygon has the worst reputation in Pokemon, and it's so unfair.
Because it killed people.
For this.
It literally killed people, Megan.
The Pokemon company killed people. Or I guess rather at that time it was like Olim or whatever. But it was not Porygon. He was a victim in all of this. I will not stand for this nonsense.
My problem with Porygon is that the only time you can get a freaking Porygon in the wild is in Pokemon Let's Go. This isn't an actual Pokemon. This is a hypothetical. I feel like every time I go to get a Porygon, I have to go into the alley and like, you know, pay $50 for a dime bag of Porygon. It sucks.
I just
And that's what happens here.
To me, Porygon is also another victim of really weird evolutions. Like I expected Porygon to like go more a mecha route than the weird, like soft, bubbly. Like Porygon 2 is, you know, all soft edges, which that one I can kind of understand. What is Porygon Z? Like
A glitch.
I don't.
Yeah,
Is it?
Legitimately, that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
It's unnecessary.
I don't know. If they do another Porygon evolution, I want it to be just like a hyper realistic, like Unreal Engine detailed Pokemon. If they're trying to like do it based on technology, it's like, well, we went from this to this. So if they have to do it, I would like that.
Pokemon, Porygon.
Yeah, basically. I just really still love how separate like the terrains and the biomes and this DLC felt. It made the map just feel so much bigger. Like I know it's only roughly the size of the wild areas that we have in like the main game, but like it feels huge, especially, you know, some of the like twisting routes that they have. I really appreciated that. Also, I think my favorite part of the game was finding all of those stupid Digletts.
Oh my gosh.
That was the first thing I did. That was the first thing. I was obsessed. It's like how in Animal Crossings, the first thing I do is pull all the weeds. Like I just have like a fascination with pulling things out of the ground. So I really enjoyed it.
I still haven't found them all. I'm just like
I've gotten them. I have all of my Diglets at home with their trainer. The trainer was very irresponsible. That's a conversation for another time, but I just really enjoyed doing that.
I did enjoy that was how you get your Alolan Pokemon. It's like, you want a Vulpix? Yeah, we got a Vulpix for you. Here's a nice Vulpix. Oh yeah, here's your Sandshrew. It's like here's the screwed up Executor. You know, like it just was cracking me up. It's like, oh, so this is how this was all going to work. Like talk about like, I would have loved to have been in the room when they in the room when they made that decision. Like, you know, like, oh yeah, we're going to do a Diglett fetch quest.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Like I'd caught most of them before I ever like went back and talked to the dude again. And so when I finally like checked in, I was like, all right, I got all these Diglets. What's happening? And I was like, oh my god! Like I figured because the Diglets were Alolan, but I was very pleased with that situation because until then I had been going to a lot of the islands trying to like find Alolan Pokemon. One thing I will say that annoys the crap out of me, and it's the first time I've ever like used repel in this game because it's just every time I'm in the ocean, 7 Sharpedos are coming.
Oh, those suckers are just like, I mean, they're literally torpedoes. I mean,
they are so fast. They just anywhere, any direction I turn,
and you can hear them.
Which
is like the worst part.
It's so like anxiety inducing that I eventually was just like, I'm going to get some repel because I can't do this anymore. But like those things, like no joke, like it was cool like the first like 2 or 3 times. But like when I actually needed to like go to those islands to do like the Diglets or do stuff like that, it was so frustrating. So I mean, I love Sharpedo. Always been a really cool water Pokemon in my book, but dude, like scale it back.
Yeah, my only complaint about Isle of Armor is that, you know, I think this would have been really fun to play in like after, like, you know, if this was like, you know, I want to go back and like do a new run through of the game, you know, from the beginning with Isle of Armor added in, because I am, you know, it was a little bit like, I don't want to say underwhelming, because, you know, there's 200 Pokemon species in this one subset, and there's 100, or I think there's 200, and like 100 of them are new Pokemon. But when you're like running into stuff like frickin' Dreadnought, it's like, okay, buddy, I've caught you 1,000 times. Get out of my way. I want the new Pokemon. And that was like really frustrating to me. and wasn't anything wrong with it. It's just like, but it did make it, and like it made some of the areas feel a little bit limited at times, where it's like, oh, here comes this area, and it's like, okay, here's a bunch of Pokemon that you've already seen, and one new Pokemon species.
Yeah.
Like
I'm excited for when Tundra comes out, because I too want to redo the game with these DLC places intact. And so once Tundra's out, I'm gonna replay the game from the start, because seeing some of the Pokemon that are now available in Isle of Armor and that will become available in Tundra, like it would change my team vastly that I kind of carried on with in my first playthrough. So I think that this DLC gives an interesting boost of replayability that you wouldn't get with a lot of Pokemon games until now. So for that in and of itself, I think is pretty great. So I'm excited to do that. Just get a little bit more waiting.
Do we think it was worth it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
For $15,
yeah, very much worth it.
For this, totally worth it.
Yeah. I was about to say, as one half as a DLC that's $15, that's one half of a $30 investment. Like, absolutely. Like, yeah. I do wish that my biggest complaint about this, and it has nothing to do with the Isle of Armor itself, is you take a look at the Isle of Armor, and you're like, this is really how the rest of Pokemon Sword and Shield should be. Mm-hmm. Like, the wild area in particular, like, the Isle of Armor is so much better than the base wild area. Like, it drives me bonkers how much better it is.
Yeah. Like, I don't like to go in the regular wild area now. Like, I went to Isle of Armor and I came back and I was going through the wild area and I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like, I was like, come on. I want to go back to the cool places.
And the other thing that I kind of wish is that, I don't like the fact that the Isle of Armor is kind of like bracketed off. So it's like, you get so many like cool features. Like, it's like, okay, you have like the Diglett that you're hunting for. You have your Pokemon can follow you around. You have all these new Pokemon species and all these new things. I really feel like it would have been rewarding to me. Like, I remember, I believe it is Black and White, maybe, or I know you see this in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and I think you see this in Black and White and Black and White 2 as well. After you complete the game, they shift the like biomes because of stuff that happens in the games, and so new Pokemon appear. Like, it gives you a reason to go back through like some of the old areas and stuff like that. I really wish that by purchasing this DLC, you could have it would have actually shifted the base game. They would have actually added stuff to the base game besides just new clothing options. Like, that's the only thing.
Great.
Don't get me wrong. I love that. I just wish that they would have done more to the main game experience. That all this cool stuff is off in this special island that only the cool kids get to go to, and that's fine. But I wish that other DLC usually brings more to the base game experience, and here it's literally like an add-on. It's a totally separate area, and it's a great freaking area, but it makes going back to the main Galar region feel a little underwhelming.
Well, I was kind of also hoping too that just kind of like you said, they would even shift the spawns in the wild area, right? Like, even if they did just something like that, I thought would have been something really cool to see, because then it gives you another reason.
Well, it's I wish that the Isle, if you have the Isle of Armor DLC, you can go and do the raid battles that are associated with the new Pokemon and whatnot in the main wild area. Yeah. You can't do that right now, and that's fine. Like I said, it's a very minor complaint in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
It's just weird too, because it feels like this is the Isle of Armor is not a separate game. Like it's not something you boot up separately or whatever. Like you are booting up Sword and Shield and you're getting access to this. So it's interesting. Yeah, I imagine it has a whole bunch of developmental reasons why it can't do that. But on the surface, you're just like,
I mean, I'll be 100% honest. Having seen games that go through radical reinventions, you know, through DLC and through free updates. I mean, for God's sake, like Animal Crossing just did, you know, a free release of new content.
Like a major one. So.
Yeah, like adds basically an entire new, like doubles the size of the game basically, because now you can swim in the ocean. And I think that's like really cool, but you know, I don't have to go to a separate island to do stuff like that. Now you can talk about how that's because, you know, Animal Crossing is a different style game, but I don't think it should not be impossible for when I go and do a when I purchase downloadable content that, you know, it allows for bigger changes to the main game. We see that all the time, you know, so it definitely should be possible for Pokemon. Mind you, this is their first time doing DLC, so they're like 15 years behind like literally every other game company. So we'll see what happens. Like, I am curious if the Crown Tundra is it, or if there's going to be even more plans to support this game after Crown Tundra is done.
I hope there is, and I think, and like we've talked about this a number of times, that like that is it's a very cool way for them to keep adding to this game, right? Like I kind of view it more as like seasons in Fortnite, right? Where, you know, they're every so often you pay $10 or $15 for the season pass or whatever, and it gets you a whole bunch of stuff, right? And now, you know, in Fortnite they're working off the same skeleton, right? Like the game is the same. It's mostly just cosmetic stuff. But I would love to see like maybe, you know, maybe it's not a totally new area, but other stuff that, you know, that they can add to the game in a way that you know, makes it different. Like even if it is like map changes to the existing world, right? Like just kind of like what Christian was talking about earlier, for a little bit would be awesome.
I just think I want to see, you know, like I said, I'm curious to see how this shift, because it used to, all the stuff is stuff that we would usually get in like a third game.
Yeah.
And they straight up said, we're not doing that this generation. So we know like we're not getting a new Pokemon game this year, and that's fine by me. But I am curious, like if we stretch out until to next year, okay, and there's like no Pokemon game on the horizon, like come March or April, and there's like no announcement saying like, yeah, we're doing another Pokemon game. You know what they're going to do with Pokemon Sword and Shield?
Yeah,
just food for thought.
It'll be interesting.
All right, I'm sure we will talk about Isle of Armor in the weeks to come. So I think we can. It's a good stopping point for us good time for us to jump to the Pokemon Fact of the Week.
So the Pokemon Fact of the Week, this is more of a just kind of like sad what could have been. Shelter in the, you know, we see Shelter, like it injects poison into Slowbro and Slowking, and that's what like triggers part of the evolutions and like its changes. You know, it gets psychic powers, and you know, or it, you know, becomes like, you know, like I've got a freaking arm cannon and I know how to use it, sort of things. Yet Shelter doesn't have any poison type moves. It can't learn a single poison type move. And it's like,
it doesn't need to learn it anymore. It just needs the one.
Well, it doesn't even know a single one.
It's just like an instinctual thing. We don't need to know about it.
I mean, but you know, if it's injecting poison onto a Slowbro, hypothetically, it should be able to do that to any other Pokemon too. So you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, Shelter is like, you know, made to sound like it is a critical part in Slowbro like evolution and stuff like that. You know, you need a Shelter. You know, And we've seen this with other Pokemon, like in order to involve like a Mantike into a Mantine, you need to have a Remoraid. I think that's the right. There are Pokemon that you need to have other Pokemon in order to trigger evolution. They never did anything like that with Shelder or with Cloister. The other weird thing, speaking of weird things, so Cloister, they talk about constantly. It's like no one has ever seen what's inside of Cloister. It's like, we've all seen it. It's a grinny face.
Yeah.
Like, like every effing Pokedex entry, it's like, no one knows what's inside of a Cloister because no one can open it. And it's like, I'm staring at its face right now. Like,
it's a dark pearl.
It's like they're not even trying to hide it. Like, what are you saying that there's more than the face? Because
now that would be terrifying.
That would be terrifying if that's the case. That's like kind of like seems to be the implication, but like this is unfortunately Shelder and Cloister are examples of Pokemon that are presented as a lot cooler than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like how they actually are in the games are kind of like, oh, these are mediocre Pokemon. There's nothing very interesting about them. But like you like read their like thing and they're like, yeah, Cloister spikes are as hard as diamond. Ancient people use Cloister spikes that they found on like the seashore to go and like kill other people with. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then it's like, here's what Cloister actually does.
I love in the Cloister Dex entries that like it swims basically by pooping water. Like it goes, Cloister is capable of swimming in the sea. It does so by swallowing water, then jetting it out toward the rear. Like
perfect. Love it. Love to hear it. Love every part of it. Truly an inspirational Pokemon.
Anyways,
man,
playing Pokemon, they can't all be winners.
That's true. I mean, but let's be real here. Who's got Shelder or who's putting Shelder or Cloister on a team?
I used to have
Misty.
a Cloister on my team.
Misty.
In Gen 1, I definitely Cloister. If I didn't have a Blastoise, I would use Cloister. Or when I needed a Pokemon to beat Lance up with, since dragons are only weak to ice, Cloister is like, one of the few Pokemon that had like ice attacks there. So I would just like spam Aurora Beams. One thing that I do like about Cloister, like that's a cute little like tidbit about Cloister. So Cloister obviously has like the highest defense stats of any water type Pokemon because it's a big effing shell.
Yeah.
They reflected that by when in Mega Slowbro, in which Cloister eats Slowbro, just straight up eats it. Mega Slowbro has the highest defense stat of any of the Mega Pokemon.
Oh wow!
Oh.
Or highest.
Cool.
It's the high. They are tied. So basically, excuse me, I misread that. When Mega Slowbro becomes Mega Slowbro, it basically gains Cloister's defense stat. Which is like a nice little touch. Because it's literally just Cloister. It's wearing a Cloister as a dress.
Well, that's a little uncomfortable, but okay.
Have you seen Mega Slowbro?
Yes.
It's very uncomfortable.
All right, let's wrap this baby up real quick. If you guys are asking yourselves, man, I love this podcast. This is a great thing to listen to once a week. How can I support these guys? Honestly, just tell some friends about it. Like really is the easiest and best way and thing that, we could ask of you guys to help support us. The other great thing that you can do is leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and we read it on the show, we've done it before, we do it a number of times, you get a free Comicbook.com t-shirt that we will personally send out to you in the mail. Except we're locked out of our office and have been over the last couple of months. But when we're back in there, y'all are getting t-shirts if we read your review. So you've got that. Otherwise, like I said, if you get bored or you want to talk about Pokemon or you have questions for any one of us, find us on Twitter. We love interacting with you guys, and we love getting the chance to share the Poke love. So you can find me on Twitter at Jim Viscardi.
I'm on Twitter at Megan Peters CB.
And I'm at Twitter at CHofferCBus.
So we'll see you here at the same time, same place next Thursday, because that's when new episodes come out wherever podcasts can be found. And until then, we'll catch you later.